Good morning, everyone. Happy Tuesday. I hope you all had a really good weekend. Today, Casey and I are going to share our stories of our autoimmune diseases with you and, how they developed, what we did about them, how we were able to get ourselves to be feeling so much better and having them completely under control, and what we teach our clients as well. So before we get started, though, just for those of you who don't know who we are, I am Jessica Melnick. I am the founder of the Anti-Arthritis Method. I am the host of the Happy Joints Arthritis Solutions Group, and I work with people with all forms of arthritis to get rid of their symptoms so they can go back to living their lives the way that they choose to, not the way that they have to. And Casey, how about yourself? I'll turn it over to you.
Yep, I am Kasie Kephart. I'm a functional medicine nutritionist. I have the 12-week course for women with autoimmune disease, basically the same as Jessica's, to trash your symptoms and feel better again, and no second guessing what you're eating anymore. And I always like to say I live in St. Petersburg, Florida, where the sun always shines. And it's shining today, Jessica.
You're so lucky. It is cloudy and cold here today, but we are on, I would say, getting close to the upswing. So we're getting closer and closer to spring. A little more daylight hours here, and it's not painfully cold, so I can't complain too much. So
I like to just rub it in a little bit, just a little bit.
I know. Someday I'm gonna be living from somewhere warm in the wintertime. That's gonna happen.
You will. You will.
So, yes, like I said before, everyone, we're going to talk about our own journeys with our autoimmune conditions and, how they developed and what we do to manage them. So, we both have autoimmune conditions, but of course they're different. And as you probably guessed from the program that I offer, the Anti-Arthritis Method, I myself have a form of arthritis. I have psoriatic arthritis. And that is really what initially spurred me to want to help people and work with people with different forms of arthritis, because I've been through it and I struggled with it for a long time. And I didn't want everybody else to have to struggle like I did. So this is why I share with what I share and what I do. So I'm going to take you guys back to my early 30s when I started having these arthritic symptoms. And at that time, I was actually going through a divorce. I had moved cities to be closer to family, and I had also changed careers and went back to school. So I was really burned out. I used to be a social worker, and I wanted to change careers so that I could do something that was less stressful. And but as you probably all know, if you've ever done a career change, that is stressful in itself. So at that time, I was not getting enough sleep. I wasn't eating the diet that was correct for me and my symptoms, even though at the time thought I was eating a super healthy, clean diet. It just wasn't the right diet for arthritis or autoimmune conditions. And I was pushing through intense workouts when I actually needed more rest. And I was burning the candle at both ends. So just not getting enough sleep, working way too late into the evening, getting up really early. I was completely exhausted. So my breaking point was when I really was not enjoying my career change and the classes that I was taking for it. And I was experiencing a lot of emotional trauma at that time because I hadn't healed from the issues surrounding my marriage. It was affecting my self-worth and my self-esteem. I was dealing with anxiety around new financial stressors of this career change, and I was living on my own in a more expensive city. And then my body just was not happy with me. And I started having some really unusual symptoms. Some of the first symptoms I had was I woke up one day and both of my hands and wrists were swollen. And it was really weird because I hadn't actually hurt myself. I hadn't overextended my wrists or overused my wrists or my hands in any way. It was just really, really strange. And I also couldn't turn my head to one side. It was like my one like trapezius muscle kind of just knotted right up, and I like couldn't move. I couldn't stretch it out. It was just really, really weird. So there is I didn't go to a doctor right away because I just was like, "Oh, this is so strange." I didn't think for a
Mhm.
second that I had arthritis. Like, I think I was like 30, 33 or something around that age, and, I just thought this is just something it's gonna pass. It's just a weird symptom. And, eventually I ended up getting another symptom where my one wrist was just searing, burning pain, and I could hardly write, I could hardly type. I could hardly hold anything with like my one hand. Like it
Mm,
was so painful. So I did go to the doctor and had a bunch of tests done. And I had tenosynovitis, which is an inflammatory condition, and ended up lasting for a good 2 months. And I had other tests done too. I was tested for rheumatoid factor. I was tested for C reactive protein as well. And what they found was I did not have any rheumatoid factor, which is commonly found in people who have rheumatoid arthritis. Not always, but often it shows up. And I had really elevated levels of C reactive protein, which is a general inflammatory marker in the blood.
mhm,
So at that time, it was like my doctor said, well, obviously you have really high inflammation in your body right now. We don't really know what's causing it. And it wasn't until, after I kind of, those symptoms subsided for me over time and then, kind of went away for a bit. And then I ended up getting other symptoms. So, a year later, I would have something like one day my ankle would just completely swell up and I couldn't put any weight on it just out of the blue. So again, it was like I was injured, but I hadn't hurt myself.
mhm,
So I'd have symptoms like that. And I had more blood tests done, same thing, elevated CRP, no rheumatoid factor. So I did this for probably, oh gosh, off and on for like 3 years and not knowing like exactly what it was or what to do. I didn't get any answers. I was referred to a rheumatologist. My referral ended up getting misplaced. So I never did get to see anybody right away. And so just trying to figure this out on my own and just like praying and hoping that it would go away. So the blessing, though, at one point was because I really wasn't enjoying this new career change that I had made for myself. I finally gave myself permission to go back to school to do something that I did really have a lot of passion and love for, and that was like health and nutrition. And so I decided to go back to school to become a registered holistic nutritionist, which, like I said, health and nutrition is something that I have always been interested in, something that I'm very passionate about. And it was through what I learned in school and through what I learned with all the amazing resources I had available to me through like by going to school that I learned how to actually get my symptoms under control, and I learned what was actually happening within my body. So um I was super fortunate that I was able to figure that out, and all the things that I was doing wrong for all those years that I thought were helping me. And I can say now I can happily say that it has been almost 2.5 years since I've had a flare up, and I'm super grateful for that. And that's what I do now. I teach my clients to get rid of their joint pain and their other gross
mhm,
arthritis symptoms that just keep you down, and I get them back to living their life again. So get back to work, enjoy their retirement, have energy to spend time with their friends and their family, and to do all the activities that they love to do that arthritis was keeping them from doing. So
mhm.
that's my passion now, and that's my story. So what
Yeah,
about you, Kasie? I know you probably have some similarities yourself
for
to my.
sure. But I want to know what you were doing to try and heal yourself, because you said you tried a bunch of things and once you learned the right way, you did that and it worked. So what were you doing before?
Well, I was eating like what I learned in school is I was eating a completely incorrect diet for autoimmune conditions and for arthritis. And so I was eating a mostly vegan diet at that time. And I later learned that that's a fantastic diet for some people, but for people with autoimmune conditions like myself, it was completely the opposite thing of what I wanted to do, because I was eating a lot of foods that really irritate the gut, and
Mhm,
also which in turn really like overfires our immune system, and that's why our immune system is attacking its our body's own tissues. And I didn't know that until
mhm,
I went back to school. So yeah, I was eating tons of like beans, legumes, nightshade vegetables like tomatoes, bell peppers,
mhm.
like every day in my
Yeah.
salad. But I thought, well, hey, I'm eating this super healthy salad with
Mhm.
salad dressing that I made from extra virgin olive oil and, herbs and spices and things like that were really clean. And I thought, well, I'm not doing anything wrong with my diet
Yeah.
because this is like a healthier diet than most people eat. So I
Mhm.
just didn't realize that was the wrong diet, and pushing myself way too hard. I learned that the hard way, because I've also experienced complete adrenal burnout, physical and mental and emotional. So I'm sure some of you guys can probably relate to that. And it was because I pushed myself to my brink, like every
Mhm.
day, worked so hard and for way too long. And eventually my body was just like, nope.
Yep. Yep.
So I laugh about that now, but it was a hard lesson learned for sure.
Yeah. And I think we all need that breaking point to be mindful, right? Because we don't know we have to be mindful until we know we have to be mindful of our bodies.
Yeah.
And it's usually that rock bottom place where we start to be mindful. And now our lesson is learned.
Yeah, like I thought if I ate healthy and exercised, I would be healthy
Yeah.
forever.
Because
Like
that's what the media tells us, though. Eat healthy, lower your calories, move more, you're going to feel good. End of story.
yeah,
That's not the case.
no.
Yeah. Every time I hear your story, I like hearing it just because you've gone through so much and you've realized so much too, and you've come out the other end just stronger and better, and now made this your career to help others who are in excruciating pain, just like you were.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a pretty cool place to be in, on the other side. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
mhm.
Um, yeah, I have some similarities. I do not have arthritis or that excruciating pain that you have, but um, so just like you took yours back to your 30s, I'm going to take mine back to college. So maybe around 18, when I got diagnosed, and then I'll go back to what made me get an autoimmune disease in the first place. So it was college. I remember I was in the parking lot of my community college parking lot. And I remember eating a squash, a butternut squash for lunch in this plastic container I had in my boyfriend's car at the time. And I'm hunched over in the passenger seat with this
Oh, you froze.
ate a freaking squash.
Sorry, Casey, say that one more time. You froze there for a sec. So you said you're in your boyfriend's car with your hunched over with the squash.
Yes, and I got so mad. I'm like, I'm just eating a squash. Like, why does my stomach hurt? Again, we find these things that we think are healthy. I mean, squash is healthy, but they can hurt us. Healthy food can hurt us. So this was like the most excruciating stomach ache I had, but leading up to that, I've been having stomach aches every single day. I'm like, okay, this enough is enough. I need to go to the doctor. And this was before my holistic functional medicine background. So I went to a gastroenterologist just to kind of look through my intestines, see what's going on. And this was around like 2012, I think, 2013 maybe. And he did an endoscopy and said I have celiac disease, which I'm surprised he found, knowing all of my education now, because 1% of the population has it, and celiac disease was not well known back then either. It's something that's very new to medicine and society. So he handed me this packet. It had to be 20 pages. He's like, here you go. Here's all about celiac disease. Here's what you can and can't eat. Went home, started to cry. I wanted to make myself a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I'm like, oh, I'll just have some white bread instead of wheat bread because wheat is gluten. I looked on the ingredient label. The first ingredient is enriched wheat flour. And I'm like, oh, okay, so no more sandwiches. Anyways, so maybe 6 months to 12 months in, like my stomach is still hurting. I still have a lot of gas. I have a lot of bloating. I have brain fog. I'm in college. I don't need any brain fog for this.
Mhm.
I'm not sleeping well. I'm not sleeping much, actually, but that was partly my fault. Um, and okay, gluten free is not working anymore. What can we do? So I was overdoing myself in CrossFit and with 2 jobs, and, through CrossFit, though, they were doing the paleo diet. I told my grandma about it because my grandma was, complaining not complaining, but, telling me about her inflammatory issues and her autoimmune disease as well. I'm like, "Grandma, you should do this," not even thinking I'm gonna do it. And so she felt so much better. I'm like, "Okay, I have to give this a try." So I started doing, a different diet, and I felt so much better. My stomach aches went away, my gas and bloating went away, I had less brain fog, but that took years. Like, I'm saying this as it's all in my community college parking lot. No, this was in a span of, like, 5 years maybe, and in between there, I was diagnosed with celiac disease, Hashimoto's, and Lyme's disease, all inflammatory, all connected, and I was, um I was just trying to figure it out by myself, with my grandma, supposedly. And so thinking back, how did this just didn't come up one day where I had stomach aches, right? I wasn't the universe just wasn't mad at my boyfriend or I and decided to give me stomach aches and celiac disease. So with my background and when I started to get really knowledgeable in functional medicine, I started to look back and why I have these causes of autoimmune disease. So going back to childhood, out of the womb, my umbilical cord was wrapped around my neck. So I'm already entering in a stressful state, which stress pokes holes in the gut from starting. I had a unstable childhood. So security and safety and emotional uplifting was not there at all. So again, you're in a stressful state of survival as a kid. Um, I lived in a house that, had mold and feces in it for about 13 years, again, with toxic family issues as well, and then brings me to toxic relationships. That's all I knew, so I got into toxic relationships with boyfriends, which is stressful on the body and again, pokes holes in the gut. I was commuting an hour and a half each day to college. I didn't feel like I belonged in high school. So I isolated myself. I was home alone all the time. So I was depressed and I was able to eat whatever I wanted to eat, which as a kid, you eat chips and popcorn and cheese fries and ice cream all the time if nobody's making you dinner or lunch or breakfast. I wasn't prioritizing sleep at all. At one point, I was working 3 jobs, still in toxic relationships. I wrote toxic, toxic, toxic all in my notes here. Going for a master's degree while doing a full-time job, and the full-time job has a narcissistic, misogynistic man that likes to comment on how you look and, put you down and gaslight you. Um, and then, a toxic cleaning, toxic hair products, toxic, um, deodorants that you put on you. So all of these things is like the perfect storm for just like blowing up an autoimmune disease in you. Um, so what I did when I figured that out, or when I started actually getting more into my diet and what was working for me, I stopped the inflammatory foods. I started to know what worked well for me. I quit drinking so much. I prioritized sleep. I prioritized my stress. I started to learn boundaries and what that looked like. Broke up with my boyfriends that were not serving me any. So basically, this whole journey since figuring this out has been a self help, boundary, therapy, um, journey that I wouldn't change for anything, but I like to use the word journey because it doesn't just happen overnight. Getting an autoimmune disease doesn't just happen overnight, but also healing it doesn't happen overnight. And so there's a point of education, but there's a point of knowing what to eat for your body and your lifestyle and putting those two things together and doing the outer work as well as the inner work. And now I feel I feel so much better. I'm still working on some other autoimmune things that I have going on past just the diet and the lifestyle. But I can't imagine if I didn't know anything I know now and where I would be still living toxically in relationships and eating chips, fries, oatmeal every day, etc. So
Mhm.
it's it's a blessing in disguise for sure.
Oh, I love your story, Casey, and thanks so much for sharing all that. And it's such a perfect example of, like you said, there's so many factors that play into an autoimmune condition, whether it's
Mhm.
arthritis or Hashimoto's or celiacs or MS. There's so many things that combine together to create this problem. And of course, because we're nutritionists, we are really, we really focus on food to begin with when we're working with our clients because it makes such a huge difference to eat the correct food for your condition.
Mhm.
But we are also very much of our holistic viewpoint, our holistic ways of practicing, where, we are going to look at, like, what is your stress level like?
Yeah.
What's your work like for you? What else do you have going on for you? And like looking at your relationships.
Your
Um,
thoughts.
Yes, your thoughts. Like, what are you telling yourself? How do you talk to
Mhm.
yourself? Do you talk to yourself like you would talk to one of your best friends, or do you talk to yourself like, somebody that you hate? It all counts.
Yeah.
Like you said, relationships, and going through major life changes, traumas. Whether in childhood, if it's not resolved, then we need to make sure that we reach out and we get support from that,
Yeah.
whether it's like a therapist or a trusted friend or a family member,
Mhm.
because these things live in the body. Like trauma does live in the body, and it can carry on for a long time if we don't address it. And negative emotions and those negative feelings and negative experiences can be released. I know
Mhm.
sounds a little hokey pokey, but
Yeah.
it's true.
Yeah.
So.
I think it's really hard to grasp, especially if this is not your background. It's hard to grasp that stress and thoughts, and trauma can do harm to your gut lining. Like, it's not specifically going in there and having a knife, right, and poking holes in it, but essentially and metaphorically, that's what it's doing. It
Mhm.
weakens the immune system and it makes that gut lining very weak. So then undigested foods and bacteria and toxins can go into your bloodstream. So just because you're not physically putting something into your body that's harming your gut, that doesn't mean that it can't cause strain, stress, and um, what word am I looking for? Damage to your gut. So that was hard to grasp for me, at
Mhm.
least.
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, I used to think is diet and exercise. That's all I need to do. You
Yeah,
know, I'm
right.
good then. But there's so many more elements in that. And that's
Yeah.
really what, we hope to kind of share with you guys during our talks, and as well what we do with our clients, so that to help you recognize maybe some things that you do, maybe that would be helpful for you to adjust in your own life so that you
Mhm.
start feeling better.
Yeah,
So.
definitely.
Mhm.
And both of our stories are mainly stress provoked of why we got an autoimmune disease, right? We both talked about stress. We are both going back to school or relationships. We both talked about not enough sleep. We talked about incorrect diets, toxic relationships again, and life changes. Like, these are all not metaphorically thing, but like things that aren't tangible that are affecting our bodies. And I guarantee you, if you're listening to this now, you have all of that stuff: major life changes, negative thoughts, toxic relationships, not enough sleep, too much stress, working too much, working out too much. You have those, whether it's all or two of them. And those things cause autoimmune diseases, but those things also heal autoimmune diseases if you do them right.
Mhm. Absolutely. And like again, I want to say we wanted to share this with you because we want to normalize your experience.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing wrong with you if your doctor, or there's nothing, you're not imagining things if your doctor can't seem to
Mhm.
find what's wrong with you right away, because it can take a long time for these things to be figured out. And there's, of course, depending on what you're dealing with, there's different testing and stuff that can get you a little bit closer and get you answers faster. um, and we want you to feel hope. We want you to feel so much better, and to know that there is a protocol to manage and put your symptoms into remission. There absolutely is.
Mhm.
And it does not happen overnight, but it can happen a lot quicker than you think that it could possibly do. Like, it
Right.
could happen for you. So yeah, I think it's just so important to know that there's other options besides, just taking medication and floundering on your own with different, trying different diets and things like that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
And both of our programs kind of just hand it to you, like hand you all of the information that we've done, but also that have worked for clients after clients after clients. And it's like this, here's all of what you need to do on a silver platter. Here you go. And I'm here with you every step of the way. So you don't have to go figure it out like we had to, or guess and check like we have to. There's always going to be a guess and check with autoimmune diseases, but we know how to guess and check. We know how to tell you what to look for. So we try to make it in the super simple way as possible. Because having an autoimmune disease is already stressful. Like, we don't want to make things more stressful for you. We're just doing more damage at that point.
yeah.
So, like always, comment below, tell us, what you want. We're happy to help. If you want to know more details, we're happy to give those as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd love to hear your feedback. And like Kasie said, the way we do our work is we want to take, our very lengthy years and years of struggle and trial and error, and, make that down into a period of months for you. So yes, it's very exciting. Let us know what you have questions about in terms of what we talked about today, or if there's anything in our stories that you can relate to as well.
Yeah.
We'd love to hear what you have to say. So.
Thank you, everybody. We'll see you. We're coming back tomorrow, not Thursday this week.
Yes, changing it up a little bit.
Again.
Yeah. Have a good rest of your day, everyone.
Bye.